Welcome back. Today we're going to be making my Just Like Grandma's banana pudding. Now it's not just like Grandma's, but it's pretty darn close, as close as I've been able to find. Now I'm going to turn my stove on to medium-high heat. To a large pot, I'm going to add 1.5 cups of white sugar, as well as 1/2 cup of white flour. And I'm going to give that a quick stirring. And then I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Mix that real quick. And then I'm going to add 6 cups of milk. Now I'm using 2% milk. You can use 2% or you can use whole milk. But you do not want to use skim milk because you do need some fat into this recipe. So I'm going to give it a good stirring until all the flour and sugar is incorporated. Now this is a time-consuming recipe. It's going to take you some time. And once I've got it mixed really well, I'm going to switch over and start stirring it with a spatula. Now you need to stir constantly, so you might as well be prepared because you're going to be stirring for about 15-20 minutes. And it's going to thicken up as it heats, and you just want to constantly stir it because you don't want it to burn, and you want it to mix nice because you don't want anything settling. You want it to get nice and thick. So you see it's starting to thicken up a little bit. And once it gets to a nice consistency, we're going to go ahead and remove it from the heat. And I'm going to crack open 6 eggs. Now I'm using large eggs. You can use large or you can use extra large. And I'm going to give it a whisking. And I'm going to whisk it really well. I do not want any whites separated from the yolk. I want it all mixed well like you would be making scrambled eggs. So I'm going to whip it pretty good. And once I've got it mixed well, I'm going to go ahead and temper my eggs. So I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of liquid. If you do not do this and you pour the egg mixture straight into that, you're going to have scrambled eggs. That is not good eats. So we're going to whisk that real good. And then I'm going to add another cup or so, or excuse me, 1/2 cup. And we get that poured in, and you see how the eggs are thickened up pretty nicely. We're going to go ahead and add that back into our pudding mixture. And I'm going to give it a nice stir and get all the eggs incorporated into the milk. And it's got a nice golden color now. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back on the heat, and I'm going to whisk it constantly for about 2 to 3 minutes. And it's going to thicken up nicely. And now at this point, it's not going to be super thick. It will thicken as it cools in the refrigerator. I'm going to shut the heat off. I'm going to remove this from the heat. And I'm going to go ahead and add to this 1 tablespoon of vanilla. Now you can use real vanilla extract or you can use the imitation. I always just use imitation. So I'm going to give that a good stirring. And I swear, if we had smell-o-vision, it smells so good to me. Oh my gosh, I just love all things vanilla anyhow. So we're going to go ahead and let this cool for about 15 minutes. And once it's cooled down a little bit, we're going to pour it into a large Tupperware container. We're going to go ahead and put the lid on it. And I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. I like to let it refrigerate a minimum of 8 hours, but preferably overnight. So now it's set overnight. It's nice and thick. I'm going to go ahead and stir it. I'm going to add to my 9x13 pan. I'm going to add about half the pudding. I'm going to make sure that's spread evenly across the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and get my bananas ready. Now I'm using 4 medium to large bananas. And I don't want them overly ripe, but I don't want them green. I want a little bit of brown speckled on them. So I'm slicing them thinly. And I'm getting them nice and spread about. And that's what it's going to look like at this point. Now I'm going to take a box of vanilla wafers. I'm just using the Kroger brand. You can use off-brand or name brand, whatever you prefer. And I'm going to place those on the bottom. And then I'm going to cover it with the remaining pudding. Now at this point, I will often make some homemade whipped cream with heavy cream, vanilla, and sugar. But tonight I'm just going to make it with just the regular pudding. I'm not going to doctor it up at all. And once that's spread, I'm going to go ahead and take the remaining cookies. I'm going to put them in my little food processor. I actually bought this at the Goodwill. It was brand new in a box. It's not the best quality food processor, but it serves its purpose for me. And I'm going to whirl it around. I want it to be about the consistency of graham cracker pie crust crumbs. So you want it fairly thin. And once I've got it chopped up nicely, I'm going to shut it off here. And I'm going to evenly spread it on top of the pudding. And then I'm going to go ahead and refrigerate this about an hour before serving. Now you can make this ahead. This pudding does not stay real good once you put it together past about a day though. Now the way my grandmother made it, she did not use the vanilla wafer. She used a layer of pudding, a layer of bananas, a layer of pudding, and then chopped peanuts. So I'm going to take about a half of a cup to a cup of peanuts. I didn't measure these out. And I'm just going to give them a quick whirl in the food processor until they're finally chopped. And then I'm going to sprinkle them on top of my pudding. And this is how my grandmother made it. And that's what it looks like. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and I thank you for watching. My fondest childhood memories revolve around my grandparents. I remember spending a lot of time in the summer with them, Christmas break, a lot of weekends. And my grandmother was a wonderful cook. And really, I do regret that I had no interest in cooking as a young person. So I never learned how to cook anything from her. I can only go by memories of what she cooked. And one of my favorite things that she made was a banana pudding. And her banana pudding was different than what most people do. It didn't have vanilla wafers in it. It had chopped peanuts on top. And so that's the way I like it, but I make it both ways. So I've never found an exact copy of it, but I've found something fairly close. Of course, everything she made was made with love. And so I'm sure that had something to do with it. Plus, she'd been cooking for 60 years. My grandma was a very interesting person. Little sidebar. She was, back in the 20s, was in a band. She played the piano in a swing band, and the band was called Rita and the Hot Stuff. She was a musician all my life. I remember her playing the piano. I have lots and lots of memories of sitting around the piano singing. I can't carry a note in a bucket myself or play any musical instruments either, but I did pass along my love of music to my children, and both my children play multiple instruments, and so it's something I've definitely been pleased and blessed to be able to do for them. So anyways, that's a little bit about me, a little bit about this recipe, and a little bit about my past. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more content in the future, as well as share with your friends and family. I will be trying to post at least 2 videos a week. I will link below links to my social media, to my Facebook, my Instagram, and my Twitter, as well as the recipe. If you make this recipe, please feel free to leave a comment. Let me know how it turned out for you. And remember, not every day is good, but there is something good in every day. Thank you, and I will see you next time.